All right, here we go. College Football Payoff Podcast, Week 6.
Episode 63.
That's Fuji. I'm Dan. We're back again. Another successful week. What was your record last week?
2-1.
Same here, 2-1. So that's another 4-2 week. Bumping my overall record on the season to 10-7. I know you got your overall, and then you have your
Yeah, I'm 9-8-1 on the year.
9-8-1. Good. So as a
130, 96, and 2 all time.
oh man. So as a pod right now, coming into week 6, we are what 19-15 and 1. So it's percentage. I don't have it in front of me, but that's a winning percentage. So we're good there. Sort of quick recap of last week. I know my one loss was UCF minus 11.5, which they were going into the fourth quarter with like a 24-point lead, I think it was, and they ended up losing that game. So that's just a monumental collapse by UCF. Yeah, not much to say about that. I mean, we had it right the entire game, and then wheels fell off. The wins, though, were Oregon State against Utah. That was easy. That was never in doubt. And then USC. So I gave out 47.5. I thought it was 48.5. So I'm sitting there watching the USC Colorado game. I thought I had team total for USC 48.5. Their little lefty kicker, fat little shit, missed a kick. I was freaking out, and then I looked back and I saw 47.5. So we're good. So 2-1 on the week. And by the way, Billy, since coming on the pod, 2-0.
Yeah.
So he's got another one for us this week. He's staying hot. I know he sent me over some Champions League plays today that I think he went 3-5 in Champions League today. So, hey, the kid's a little sharp, man. I'm going to have to get him on. What about your recap for last week?
Last week, I won. I mean, it was a great week. WVU TCU under 52.5. We got it, even though that half of WVU's defense seemed to be carted off the field.
Yeah.
But they have a bye, or I think they have a bye week this week, so hopefully those guys get better. So nice W there. Texas State minus 5.5 over Southern Miss. Man, they almost gave that one away. Texas State was up 42-10 at halftime, and then I checked my phone again midway through the fourth quarter, and they're only up by 6. So I don't know what the hell happened there, but we still got the cover. And then Georgia minus 14.5 never had a chance.
Mm-mm.
It's an embarrassing performance. And I honestly don't know how you don't cover this game. I mean, they allowed 219 yards rushing on the ground, so that's probably why. Most of those yards, 60 of those yards came on
One run.
Peyton Thorne run.
Yeah.
They had 88 total passing yards the whole game. Carson Beck had over 300 passing yards, and Brock Bowers had over 150 receiving yards, and this game ended 27-20. First half didn't cover, full game didn't cover. Very embarrassing performance. And for that, man, if Georgia wins the national championship, I mean, they have like a lot of games to improve before the end of the year, but right now, man, I think they'd get beat by Michigan. I think they'd get beat by possibly Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's just so disappointing.
So
I mean,
that
even looking at just looking at the quarterback, like Peyton Thorne, 10 for 19, 82 yards and a pick.
mm-hmm.
What are we doing? So
That kind of segues into what we learned for the last week. That was my main thing was Georgia. I mean, so there's two ways that I look at it is one, either Georgia's not the same team, maybe they're not for real this year, or number two, are they just skating by in these games, kind of not showing all their cards, just saying, hey, we're number one, we keep winning, they can't drop us unless we lose, so we're just going to do the bare minimum to win and then not show the top, our top competition what we really have until it's ready to go. I'm kind of leaning towards Georgia might not be the real deal this year.
they're just like Michigan. They each play a dog shit schedule. So the second that you guys step up just a little bit in class from, your borderline FCS schools to even a low tier SEC school. It's like you get punched in the mouth.
Hmm.
So, I mean, but man, even with the stat line, it's just inexcusable.
Yeah.
I do not feel like Kirby Smart has some dogs out there. And, I did listen to a lot of gambling media this week, and maybe Stetson Bennett had a bigger impact than we thought when it at least came to leadership and being a dog
Yeah.
instead of, even though he was a walk on, they could have won national championships without him from a talent perspective. But I'm really looking at this Georgia team like, what the hell is going on
Yeah.
compared to their recent standard, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing that I look at here, aside from Georgia, is Utah. Man, Utah is nothing without Cam Rising. Um, I think they're on a bye this week. I'm pretty sure they have a bye this week, so he should be back the next week. But dude, their offense can do anything without
Hmm.
Cam Rising. And DJU just took them to town. Every time I turn and watch that game, there was a big chunk play happening for Oregon State. So Utah really, it's based on the quarterback, and we saw that with a lot of teams this week in college football. Um, Washington rolls behind their quarterback. Uh, Oregon works behind theirs, and even Colorado. I mean, Colorado USC. It was Caleb Williams and Shadur.
In Texas.
Texas. All these teams. If your quarterback is just, I mean, if it's such a drop from number one to number two on all of these teams that it's kind of scary if you're going to have a quarterback get injured. And of course, we don't want injuries, but if quarterback gets injured for, let's say, Michigan or um, USC or Washington, teams that have playoff hopes,
Hmm.
what are you going to do? I mean, we've already seen what Ohio State's backup quarterback is. That's why I didn't put them in that same conversation. But man, if your quarterback goes down, oh, it's going to be rough sledding. Um, yeah, it was kind of par for the course last week.
What else did you learn?
Uh, Notre Dame is a fraud team as usual. That
Yeah, man, I should have took their under 9 win total.
that game against Duke was just the quarterback for Duke. I didn't think was that good, but Notre Dame made him look amazing, and then Notre Dame was unable to move the ball basically against Duke until it came down to last play. It's the same Notre Dame. I don't think Marcus Freeman really has that killer instinct in him. Whenever I hear him talk too, he's always like preaching with like sayings and whatnot instead of going out and just doing your job. Um, those are my takeaways from last week.
My takeaway from last week is that I think, at least for this year, you're going to have to win your conference championship to make it to the
Hmm.
college football playoff. I think there's too many good teams not many great teams, but too many good teams in each conference to not send one from.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess you have to leave one out. I mean, the Pac-12 will probably cannibalize
I don't know.
themselves,
I
but
don't know if Washington keeps doing what they're doing, they have a
man,
shot.
I'm writing USC off now. I mean, the only way USC can win the Pac-12 championship is if they probably score 8 touchdowns in the game.
Hmm.
That'll probably be like a 56-52 game. Oregon's defense I really like, and Dan Lanning being with Kirby Smart for all those years, he knows how to get a team into the postseason and to perform well coming down the stretch. So I mean, if the Pac-12 doesn't cannibalize themselves, I'd say probably Oregon. Washington, I love obviously. Uh, Big Ten, it's going to be Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State.
Michigan
Um,
or Ohio State, I think.
yeah, I mean,
Listen, if
Penn
it's not
State's
Michigan,
fallen off a little bit,
yeah,
but
and if it's not Michigan or Ohio State, I could see, you know, neither of those team from the Big Ten possibly not making it
mm,
if the Pac-12 keeps going, and the SEC will obviously have Georgia.
if whoever wins this week between Oklahoma and Texas wins out, I think they make it.
Yeah,
And then so now you're stuck. An SEC team's definitely making it. So what does that leave out the ACC? But
yeah,
you have Florida State sitting there. You have Miami sitting there undefeated with have an 80-1 ticket on them. So it's like I don't know. It looks like the ACC might be the odd man out, but
could be.
who knows?
All right. Well, that's the weekend, the week recap, I should say. So let's just jump right into these games.
Wait, just one more thing
Oh,
before
okay.
we move on.
What do you got?
About last week, Billy Napier sucks. That's all
Yeah.
I have to say. I
Awesome.
think he's fraud. So
Yeah. Great drop.
let's get
Love
to
that.
week 6.
All right. I have one Friday play. Do you have anything for Friday?
Not officially. But wait, just real quick. I guess before we move on to Friday, Thursday night.
Oh, you have one for Thursday night.
Oh yeah, Thursday night. A little CLV action. I got Western Kentucky -5. So,
Who are they
mm,
playing?
Law Tech.
Okay.
So, but I mean,
Thursday
it's at
night.
like -6, -6.5 now. That's why I shop early and fire early. But yeah,
Absolutely.
that's my Thursday night play.
Sweet. All right. Well, I'll lead us off here then with my first official pick for the day or the pod, and that's this Kansas State Oklahoma State game. Um, excuse me. Kansas State at Oklahoma State Friday night, Big 12, 7:30, Boone Pickens Stadium. And when I wrote this down, I had Kansas State. What did I have them at? -11.5, -12.5. I'm taking Kansas State -12.5. Um, I like what I see from the Kansas State team. Oklahoma State, I don't really see them in the same ball game. Um, even though Kansas State lost to Missouri, I think Missouri's probably a little bit of a slip. Like they're not going to win the SEC, but they're a tough team in the SEC. And obviously, when you play an out of conference team that comes from the SEC, it could be a little tough. So, yeah, that one loss, but Oklahoma State has their two losses. One was to Iowa State, which I think puts you kind of in a tier below Kansas State in this. Um, Last year, Oklahoma State was 7-6, but they finished 2-6 on the year after starting 5-0. So going into week 6 is when they kind of faltered. I can see that happening again here. It's going to be another disappointing year. You lost Iowa State, lost to South Alabama. Kansas State finished last year. They won the Big 12 championship game, lost Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. Uh, Big thing here is Kansas State's offense. They're averaging 38 points per game, 482 yards per game. It's fast paced, high powered. Quarterback Will Howard, 65% completion percentage, over 1,000 yards already, 13 touchdowns. Yeah, he's thrown 4 picks, but quarterbacks are going to throw picks. But a 13-4 ratio on that is fine. Uh, he also has DJ Giddens at running back, who's over 400 yards on the year in just 66 carries. Their defense seems to be on pace as they were last year. They're allowing 2 touchdowns a game, 14 points, uh, under 350 yards of offense per game. And Oklahoma State, they're averaging only 20 points per game. So they're having trouble scoring. They're facing a buzzsaw defense right now, where Kansas State is kind of trending up. Oklahoma State could be going into this thinking, they got to press to save their season already. I just don't think that Oklahoma State has the rhythm. They don't have the flow going into games right now. And Kansas State, this is just they're going to walk into this 7-2 against the spread straight up. 7-2 against the spread and straight up in their last 9 games. So when they win, they cover. 9-3 against the spread in their last 12 against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is they're 1-6 against the spread in the last 7, and in those games they're 2-5 straight up. So like I said, one team's trending up, the other's trending down. I like Kansas State here on the road. Um, I just think their offense is too high powered. Their defense is phenomenal. Defense in a Big 12 is phenomenal. So I'm comfortable with this number. I think it started 11.5. It's starting to move. I would go up to probably about 13 in this game, maybe 13.5. Once you start to get to 2 touchdowns, it starts to get iffy. But Kansas State, right now I have them at 12.5. So we'll go with that.
Okay. I got it at actually a little good for you. It's at 11.5 for a lot of places right now.
Sweet. Yeah, when I
So
looked at it today, it was 12.5. So I'll take Kansas State 11.5. Perfect. Thank
not
you.
that it's mattered because I've gotten a bunch of CLV this year and it hasn't mattered because I lose all the games anyways. But I got this at -10.5 earlier this week. So
This Kansas State game?
yeah, I'm
Oh,
with you.
nice.
So
Awesome. That makes me feel a lot better. All right, cool.
all right, my first game of the week. My favorite team to watch in the country, and I think this is a good spot to finally buy them. And if you don't want to buy them, I would suggest taking Arizona State money line, but I'm gonna rock with Colorado -4 here. Um, Obviously, like I said, my favorite team to watch in the country, and just player for player, Colorado, at least on the one deep starting lineup, Arizona State shouldn't be able to compete with Colorado. I mean, so much talent on this Colorado team, at least when it comes to the weapons. Obviously, Shador at quarterback. I don't think Travis Hunter will play this week, but man, watching him last week, Cormani McLean, the freshman 5-star that finally got on the field last week against USC
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Colorado. I feel really good about him. I think he's going to keep eating now that he's gotten a little taste of it. And that other freshman from Colorado that went off for like 196 yards last week. Don't even remember his name. That's bad podcasting. But if he's like the fourth option to throw to, and he's going for all these yards, I'm completely good with it. You still have Xavier Weaver out there, still have Jimmy Horn Jr., and then of course you have the wide or the running back, Dylan Edwards. So I just think honestly, player for player, I don't think Arizona State's going to be able to keep up, um, especially if Colorado puts up 30, 40 points. I just don't see Arizona being able to score that. And then Arizona State. I mean, so Arizona State last week. Here's the only thing that worries me is they started this new quarterback that absolutely just tore up well, last week. I mean, he threw for, 26 for 41, not the best, but 344 yards.
Mhm.
Pretty impressive for your first game starting. He's been third on the depth chart. I'm still trying to find information. Does Jalen Rashada, the 5-star guy at Arizona State, he's a freshman though. Do they want to play him? Do they want to play fraud ass Pine? I'd really hope they do. But that's the only thing that worries me here. I just think from a pure talent perspective, Colorado's probably a touchdown better. So I'm gonna comfortably take this at -4.
Yeah, and that was also something. So watching that USC Colorado game, it just becomes so much more evident that, and these past 2 weeks for Colorado, facing Oregon, facing USC, they were facing high-powered offenses. Yeah, their defense struggled, but I think those two games kind of, I wouldn't say prepared, but it almost like mentally fortified the defense and Dion. Like, hey, we got to tighten this up, and I think this is a perfect spot for them to tighten up.
For the defense to play well.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, especially since Arizona State, half of their offense production is from Bo Scatabo.
Hmm.
I mean, he, I guess his real name is Cameron, but they call him Bo Scatabo. And, man, he eats up all over the field. Last week, actually, he was against Cal. Scatabo was their leading rusher and their leading receiver. And he threw a pass for 18 yards. So shut down that guy. I think we can move forward.
Yeah, and I even thought Colorado had a chance to win that game last week.
At the end, they absolutely did.
Because their offensive coordinator was calling run plays when they needed pass plays. I don't understand it, but I liked what I saw from Colorado in the second half. So dude, I'm gonna keep rolling with Colorado bets all throughout the season because I love watching their games, just like you said. All right, 1-1. Here we go. Number two for me. This is Ole Miss, Arkansas. Right now, where did I have their number at? So I'm taking the over in this game. Ole Miss, Arkansas, I had it at over 63. Let me know if you see something else here. Uh, Ole Miss last week came off a fantastic game. Beat LSU at home. Man, that game, it was fun to watch that game. It was intense. I mean, it was 55-49. Those are two SEC schools just going back and forth. It was, dude, weapons all over the place. Um, Jackson Dart under center. Yeah, he looked fantastic, dude. He was throwing the ball all over the field. Really weren't able to stop LSU at some point. It was score, kickoff, score, kickoff, score, kickoff. But now they face a team in Arkansas who Arkansas always has that, everyone's up on Arkansas to begin the year, and then they get into their SEC schedule and they become that middle of the road, lower of the pack team in the SEC. Arkansas is coming off their first two games in SEC play, losing to LSU and Texas A&M. Uh, Meanwhile, Ole Miss just keeps continuing to roll here. I like the over. Hmm,
Got
this is
you 62 and a half.
62 and a half. Let's put it down there. Perfect. As far as a couple guys here to watch out for, Jackson Dart for the Ole Miss Running Rebels quarterback, fantastic. I thought he controlled the game, threw the ball very well. Quinshawn Judkins for Ole Miss, he's a star running back. Battled some injuries early in the year, but against LSU, he looked like he was back to his old self. 33 rushes, 177 yards, a touchdown. That's by far his best performance of the year. So he's kind of picking up where he needs to. And Arkansas's rush defense is in the top 40. So it's going to be a test. So I think using Dart effectively to pass the ball will open up the run game. Vice versa, using Judkins to gash a little bit will open up the pass game. That's going to spell points for Ole Miss. And then Arkansas has Rocket Sanders as running back. Missed the last three games due to injury. Struggled against Texas A&M last week. But I think that was him trying to get healthy, get back in shape. I think this is a good spot for him to come back and get on get on track here. KJ Jefferson, quarterback at Arkansas. I feel like this is just a good spot for both these quarterbacks to throw up the points here. I won't trust Ole Miss with a spread here. I'm just gonna count on both offenses showing out, and even if Ole Miss scores their 45, 40 something points, we're looking at 20 points for Arkansas. I think that's attainable for them. Arkansas's defense has struggled a ton this season. They've allowed 30 or more to three straight opponents and is bottom half in yards per play allowed. So I think this is a slugfest. Um, and when I say slugfest, I mean a lot of points by Ole Miss and then kind of giving up Arkansas points just to keep status quo here. So this game, I'm taking the over 62 and a half.
Nice. I interested to see how Ole Miss bounces back this week. I mean, they won last week, but see if it's a letdown spot for them or not.
Who do they got next week?
I do not.
I'll look that up while you're talking. I
Good
don't
stuff.
see.
For my next pick, we're gonna go to a Pac-12 game, and we're gonna take the under 59 and a half, and that is with Washington State and UCLA. These are two of the better. Well, UCLA to me is the best defense in the Pac-12. Washington State's doing okay, allowing 382 yards a game. But the main thing here is I just don't see this game hitting 60 points whatsoever. It took a lot for the game to go over 60 2 weeks ago with Wazoo and Oregon State. And UCLA doesn't really, unless they're playing an FCS opponent, none of their games this year have gone over 60. Uh, UCLA and that Chip Kelly offense is, a pretty run heavy offense. They rushed for over 200 yards a game so far this year, and I think they're actually going to use this running offense to game plan against Washington State's offense in the sense of we're going to run the ball, run the clock, and we're going to give Cam Ward, Washington State quarterback, the least amount of opportunities we can give him to score. So, and then also both of these teams are off of 2 weeks rest. So both had byes last week before entering conference play, or at least before going to their second game in a conference play. And honestly, when you take an extra week off, that does nothing to necessarily help the offense, but that does mean the world to help the defensive game plan, to help your defense understand the scheme and what they're going against with your next opponent. And I think both these defenses are going to be ready to play. Additionally, Washington State's a hot team to talk about right now, and it's a really good time to sell them. So, no, I don't think UCLA is going to run it up on them, but I do think what makes them Washington State hot, aka Cam Ward and their legit wide receiver group, um, I just think it's time to sell them. So we're going to go with Chip Kelly, run heavy offense, and probably the best defense in the Pac-12 to keep this game under for us, under 59 and a half.
Yeah. I do like the undercall there. I like what you said there about having a week off kind of uplifts the defense more than it does the offense. Usually that applies to a team that gives up points, right? So if you're struggling at one aspect, that off or that bye week comes in, you're going to strengthen your weakness. I get that. So going with that same thought here, if your offense is struggling going into the bye week and your defense is one of the best in the country, what is that bye week going to do for you then? Are you going to strengthen your defense more? Is it going to help your defense or is it going to help your offense?
I just think it strengthens your defense because they have 2 weeks
No,
of
no,
game
this
plan.
is this
Oh,
isn't talking about your game. This
okay.
is segueing into my game.
Okay, what do we got?
So your offense struggles
So
up until
so
this
you
point.
work on offense.
Okay.
Right?
All right. So you go into the bye week, you're working on offense because your defense is good. Ohio State, Maryland. That's the game that I'm going with here. We're going with the over.
I like it.
Uh,
No matter what number you say, I like it.
over. I saw 55. It had to have jumped by now.
You know what time the game starts? Hold on, I'll scroll through here.
Noon. I think it's noon.
What
Yeah,
what are
noon.
we looking at?
Ohio State, Maryland. I had it at 55. What's it at now?
57.
Good. Give it to me. Over
Good.
57. So Ohio State, bye week last week, we know that they've had struggles on offense. They pulled out a win against Notre Dame late. Their defense is phenomenal. Offense, you have weapons at receiver, you have dynamic running backs, but you have a quarterback who's basically inept right now. I think this bye week came at a perfect time for Ohio State. They're going to face a Maryland team that is 5-0, running high. They're looking to take the next step, and they have a quarterback. I can never say his first name, so I'm just going to say to his brother, Tagovailoa, leads a passing offense that's 20th in the country. He is completing 67% of his passes, 8.7 per attempt, 13 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions, only sacked 3 times in 5 games. Man, these two teams are going to put up mad amount of points on a fast turf field in Ohio State. I think this screams over because I think Ryan Day is going to take this team, which, yeah, he had his comments about Lou Holtz and all that, but I think he's fired up now because you saw what happened. Like he's fired up. People saying his team isn't good, his offense doesn't work, his play calling's bad. I think this week was the perfect time for them. They had time to kind of make the adjustments they needed to, hammer down, route trees, situational play calling, all that good stuff. And they don't have to worry about a look ahead going to play Purdue next week. That's usually a tough game for Ohio State, but I think this week is all systems go, ready to fire, just score points, 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 points. I think this is the game too where he has to get Marvin Harrison Jr. some looks because he's kind of getting dropped down draft boards. And if you have a guy who's drafted top two, top three picks in the NFL draft now, he's falling a little bit. If he falls, that's people look at that and they say, man, that's on you. That's a bad recruiting pitch. Um, I just think this is going to be high scoring offensive game. Even if the Buckeyes do jump out to a big lead early, Maryland's still going to keep Tagovailoa in the game. They had 472 yards of total offense last week. 352 of that was passing. 31 or more points in every single game this year for Maryland. So if you're looking at 31, I mean, let's say you knock 2 touchdowns off of that, you're at what, 17?
Mm-hmm.
So 17, 57, 40 points for the Buckeyes. I think that's doable. I think the Buckeyes can put up 42.
Okay.
I love the over in this game. I think this is just going to smash 57.
I like the over too. Um, not going to take it with you, but just because I am just a little bit worried about if Jim Knowles is even make. I mean, I just think Jim Knowles has taken this Ohio State defense to new levels, and I think the further on they go in it and understand the scheme, the better they'll be. So I think their defense will peak eventually, but for your sake, I just hope it's not this week.
I really hope that their defense peaks at some point, but
Yeah.
what's going on right now is the defensive front was not able to get much pressure, and they ran a zone defense against Notre Dame.
Hmm.
The defensive backs still need a lot of work. I think if they keep running that zone defense, Tagovailoa is a veteran college quarterback. I think he'll be able to kind of pick them apart as Sam Hartman did. The only difference is I think Tagovailoa is going to take more deep shots than Hartman did against the Buckeyes, which
Yeah,
could result in those chunk plays and explosive plays. And I think Maryland, because Notre Dame wasn't really in a position where they were desperate for a win. I think Maryland right here, starting 5-0, they're going to be kind of desperate to go out and prove that they're taking the next step. So I think they score points and they do whatever they can to score those points so they don't get shut out on the road.
yeah,
So that's where I'm looking at with that.
good stuff. I'm gonna go to the ACC for my third pick. So I bragged about this team last week. I've already brought them up this week. I think this Miami Hurricanes team is really good, and I already got them at 81 to win the national championship a couple weeks ago. You're not going to be able to find those prices anymore, and we're going to fade a team that is probably just more demoralized than you could ever imagine right now, and that's the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Up 14-0 last week against a MAC school in Bowling Green, and they end up losing the game at home 38-27 to a Bowling Green team that I wasn't sure if they had a pulse or not
Hmm.
going through the first 4 weeks. So just terrible, embarrassing loss for them. They do have Haynes King as their quarterback, who's a Texas A&M transfer, so they are able to throw the ball around, but I'm not really expecting them to get up because after you lose to a MAC school, you got to go on the road to what I believe is probably the best team in the ACC's home night game, and try to even just at least make it respectable. So Tyler Van Dyke, quarterback for Miami this year. Everybody thought he was going to be great last year, but it turns out this year is he's actually turning it on. Through the first 4 games of the season, he has a 74.7% completion percentage, and an 11-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. So this is definitely a quarterback I want to get behind. He's a leader. He's a veteran, and home night game makes me feel really good that he's going to come out and run those stats up again. Henry Parrish Jr., their top running back this year, is averaging 7.9 yards a carry. This is including a game against Texas A&M. So, Miami already beat what I think might be the cream of the crop this year, Texas for the SEC, Texas A&M, by over 2 touchdowns. Um, was that it? No, that was at home. But I mean, that's
Mm-mm.
fine. I'm the outside of the Texas A&M game. Miami hasn't allowed more than a touchdown to be scored against them to any of their other 3 opponents. We took Miami on the show earlier this year against Miami of Ohio, and we're going to bounce back with them right now, minus 20.5. I think it's very important that you get the minus 20.5 rather than the minus 21 because I think there'll be some nice backdoor push opportunities there for Georgia Tech. But when it comes to covering the spread, I think Miami runs it up on this team, and I'd probably even look first half too. So give me Miami minus 20.5.
Yeah, I really like Miami. I like Miami a lot. And like you said, Georgia Tech, man, you can't go up like that on Bowling Green and then end up shit in the bed. It is. It's a like you said, it's a fade, but I would actually just go based on Miami, dude. I like them a lot. I don't want to
And
say they're back, but I like them.
so here, I mean, here's Miami's schedule going forward. They play at North Carolina next week, which I'm not too worried about.
Mm-mm.
Then they host Clemson, which I I'm a little worried about just because I don't think Clemson's a terrible team. I think they're a pretty okay team. They should have beat Duke first game of the season, and I mean
They should have, but they didn't.
they fumbled 3 times the side of the 10, so that game looks different than it actually was. And then it took them overtime to lose to Florida State. So I think that's a sketchy game. But once you get past that, they should beat Virginia and NC State.
Hmm.
And then circle on your calendars November 11th, Miami at Florida State. Miami revenge game after Florida State beat them by like 40 points last year.
Yeah.
So I have that one circled, and I hope both teams get through undefeated to that point, because that's going to be one where you sit on the couch all day and wait for that one to happen.
Beauty. All right. Well, that's three of them. So a quick money line pick for me. I'm looking at this Iowa State TCU game. I'm going to take a little sprinkle with Iowa State plus 205 right now
Mm-hmm.
against TCU. First of all, this is a night game at Iowa State. So Iowa State is a home dog.
Tough place to play.
Tough place to play. I think Iowa State's offense is starting to turn a corner a little bit. They're getting rid of the run game, letting Beck go. TCU's defense, boom or bust. We've seen that. Uh, they get a lot of sacks, but they also let up a lot of explosive plays. So I think this is a perfect spot for Iowa State to come out and shock TCU. I'll sprinkle that for sure. And then I also have Billy's best bet. Billy doesn't really give me too much of an analysis. He throws the picks, he says what he likes, and then he sends me a GIF.
Nice.
So that's what I like for him. Let's see. This week he sent me a few. He talked his way out of a few of them, and then he finally settled on the Red River. Surprised we didn't really talk about this. Texas, Oklahoma. He's taken Texas minus 6.5 in this game. Said he likes Texas's offense. He thinks it'll be high scoring, but he likes Texas a lot. So he's rolling with Texas, and then he sent a Matthew McConaughey gift. So
Nice.
I think he's happy. Hey, he's 2-0, so I'm gonna roll with him until he gives me a reason
Um,
not to.
I am excited to watch some of these games this week, especially Oklahoma, Texas, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, Man, even Friday night, Nebraska versus Illinois is going to be a shit show, but that's going to be a good game. Um, I think somebody that's on big upset alert this week, and not an official pod play, but I did use a free bet that I had at one of my accounts this week on it. I think Rutgers has a chance to beat Wisconsin. I seriously do. Wisconsin does not have an impressive win to me this whole
Mm-mm.
year, and Rutgers quarterback is actually good. And Rutgers can slow. And now that Wisconsin's switched up their offense a little bit to where they're taking more shots, not a whole ground and pound all the time. If they go 3 and out quick, and Rutgers holds on to the ball and then carries out these 7-minute drives, I think
Okay,
Rutgers has a chance. I did bet them at plus 14 earlier this week, and I used a free bet on the money line plus 405. So
like that.
let's rock with Rutgers this week to knock off Wisconsin. That's my upset alert.
Looking at that Nebraska Illinois game, I would take the under in that game. Uh, Under is you can get what 43.5. I'd take the under in
Hmm.
that. I don't like Nebraska at all, man.
Oh,
And they just got demoralized against Michigan.
I also think Texas A&M beats Alabama.
No.
I do. If Connor Wegman, Texas A&M's original starting quarterback, was in, and if he wasn't out for the season, I would probably take a flyer on Texas A&M to win the SEC. I am not a believer in this Alabama offense, and if Texas A&M gets up, I don't know if Alabama will be able to claw it back, especially with having Jalen Milrow have to sit back there and pass the whole for 3 quarters. So, yeah, I'll put Wisconsin on upset alert and Alabama on upset alert this week.
Yeah, I might put LSU on a little upset alert too against Missouri.
Yeah,
Missouri's kind of sneaky good.
and LSU, man, those guys might just get rolling.
Yeah. So there's another one. What else we got? NC State minus 6 at home against Marshall. That's one that I'm looking at too. I like NC State a lot for some reason. Syracuse, UNC.
UCF Kansas is a good game.
Yes, very good game. Oh, let's see. We got Maction. We got Purdue, Iowa at 41.
Fuck it, put Georgia on upset alert.
Yeah, mine's well, dude. Seriously.
Yeah,
Purdue, Iowa. Man, watching Iowa, Michigan State last week was a kick in the nuts. That game sucked.
I'll be watching closely to Colorado State, Utah State,
Mm-hmm.
because I have a Colorado State over 4.5 win total bet for this season, and this is a very important game for that win total.
Okay.
So let's go Rams.
I have South Alabama over 8 wins this year. They're going up against ULM as 12-point favorites, so I'm sitting pretty with that. Notre Dame, Louisville. I might take Louisville plus the points, plus 6.5. at home.
Yeah, I don't know. With everybody talking shit on Notre Dame now, I feel like it might be time to buy them. But I'll have to deep dive that game and see what I'm like. Sam Hartman still no picks this year.
That's true. He's good at picking apart defenses, man.
Yeah,
He's a he's a he is almost like a pro
but
quarterback.
we do have the once or twice annual Sam Hartman forgets how to play quarterback game. At
Could be
least that
this
happened
game.
at Florida State. So prime
He's had
time.
he's had two back to back like high pressure games, Ohio State, and then last week turned into a high pressure like you had to lead your team game. I think
Yep,
he could crumble a little bit.
third primetime game in a row for Notre Dame.
Yeah, that could be a tough spot for him. All right, I don't see anything else really.
No, that's all I got. I would maybe take Arizona to cover against USC since the defense sucks.
True.
USC overs are live, so I'll probably take the over too.
All right, quick recap. I got Kansas State. This is a Friday night game. Kansas State minus 11.5. Moving to Saturday, Ole Miss, Arkansas over 62.5. Ohio State, Maryland over 57. I took that Iowa State money line sprinkle. What else did I say? I had these last two are unofficial, by the way. The money line is unofficial, and then under 44.5 in Nebraska, Illinois. That's a thunder pick. And then Billy's lock of the week. He is 2-0. He's going Texas minus 6.5.
Okay. I am taking Colorado -4. Oh, Wazoo, UCLA under 59.5, and then Miami -20.5.
All right, cool.
Let's have a week.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be kind of a more of a chill week this week, getting into that front half of conference play. But it's time to get going. We're still positive, so we're going to keep it rolling and hopefully keep building that bankroll so we can lay some serious money when it comes to bowl season, championship season. So, all right, hit them with the socials. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, follow Dan at DPOS13 on Twitter. Follow me at Fuji Bets, and most of all, follow the pod at CFP_pod.
That's right. You can get us wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud. We're even on YouTube. Anywhere you can get it, like, subscribe, follow, comment. Let us know you're listening. Let us know your picks. We just want to hear from you, and we want to help as many as we can. So,
Share with your friends. Run those downloads up.
yeah, and shout out to the B2 boys. They're out there listening. I was at a game this weekend, and one came up to the dugout, told me he liked the pod. I'm like, dude, let's go, man. He's listening to the podcast. Said, share it with your friends. He's got me.
Just
Responsibly.
gambling for 21 and over. Just
Responsibly.
Yes.
He said he liked listening.
Irresponsibly. He said his dad bet that.
No, he didn't say he bet anything. He didn't
Okay,
say
good.
he bet anything. He
Good.
just said he
Said he liked
listens.
the pick.
He liked the pick.
Good.
Uh,
Good.
yeah, don't gamble unless you're 21 or over. All right, that's it. You got anything else?
No. Let's go B2.
Dan, that's food. You'll see you next week.